you ever feel like strangling the love of your life? Living with your partner can be challenging, to say the least. We've survived living in confined spaces for the past 2 years.
This is how we've done it.
Because I would say most relationships go wrong because of the lack of communication. And I can testify to this from previous relationships where the communication wasn't there, and I think I lacked the maturity as well to be able to communicate properly.
Communication is everything, and that looks like setting boundaries, checking in with each other, being forthcoming about how you feel. Boundary setting is huge, and I think, again, a lot of relationships go wrong because they don't set boundaries. The point of boundary setting is, with a partner, letting them know what you're comfortable with, letting them know what you're uncomfortable with, letting them know what deal breakers are, understanding how to react to each other's moods maybe. But once you've got that clear, you understand what's okay, what's not okay, and what your partner needs. This might sound a little bit crazy. Before Ollie and I got together, when we decided we wanted to be exclusive, we sat down and went through boundaries first. So before we agreed to get into a relationship, we went away and wrote down what would be a deal breaker in our relationship, what we need from a partner in a relationship, what we need for ourselves in a relationship, what we would consider inappropriate in a relationship, amongst other such things. We came back together and literally had a meeting, and we read through this list and we took it in turns to talk about those things. And then we said to each other, like, based on this, do we agree to get into a relationship and abide by these boundaries that we set for each other? And that's how we went into the relationship. And every 6 months maybe, we do boundary setting again, and we tweak things if things need tweaking, because people change and things change and relationships change over time.
Honestly, it's amazing because, yeah, you're just both on the same page and there's no grey areas, or you know where you both stand, basically. That's so important. Another thing we do is we have a check-in once a week. We sit down with a pen and paper and we have a list of, say, 8 categories, which are things like intimacy, connection, feeling heard, feeling loved. And then we rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, so 10 being like perfect and 1 being awful. If anything's below, say, a 7, then we just talk about it and like, how can we make it a 10? Why we feel that way? And then we just have a discussion on how we can move forward and make it better for both of us so our relationship works.
Another thing we try really hard to do is to practice listening. And what that means for us is, if one of us is talking, the other person shuts up. We don't interrupt each other at all. We just sit, we look at each other, like we make sure we're not doing things while we're talking. We put stuff down and we just sit and listen. And when that person has finished, then we say our bit. You feel respected, you feel heard, and then you're also ready to listen to the next person.
Getting out into nature is like up there with the top tier ingredients to having a harmonious relationship. Nature is calming, it reduces anxiety, it's a mood booster, it clears your head.
I think nature draws out the kind of negative energy from you.
If you look into the science behind trees and oceans in terms of drawing negative energy out, it definitely does that. Which always puts you in like a better headspace when communicating with your partner. Like, we talk nicer to each other, we have more patience with each other when we've been outside.
Yeah, especially living in a small space, it's quite easy to butt heads, and especially surrounded by loads of technology. So coming out here just cleansed, you feel cleansed is the word.
But it's getting away from the stimulation as well. If you look at anywhere public or in your house or in cafes or wherever, there is constant stimulation, there's noise, there's technology, there's interruptions, there's just stuff going on all the time. In nature, there isn't. You have, as you may be able to hear now, sound of the wind a little bit, the birds, and generally just like nothing else.
It almost acts like a reset. So then when you come back to your partner, you're just in a completely different headspace and you're a lot more understanding. The amount of times where I haven't wanted to go outside, and Ames was like, get outside and go for a walk or something if I've been in like a kind of irritable mood. When I do eventually go out and get in nature, and just completely changes my whole mood and perspective. One thing that can stop many arguments is thinking before you speak. So a lot of the time we just react straight away. So this just allows you to have a moment of clarity before you just act out or blurt something out that you know is going to piss your partner off.
I think pausing before you respond gives you time to process what has been said, collect your thoughts on what you want to say back, and it also stops you reacting but from emotion. It's a thoughtful response.
Especially if you're not in a good headspace yourself, and so you're busy and you've got your partner asking you a question or saying something, you might not be in the right frame of mind to respond kindly, because our natural instinct, if we're acting on emotion, is just to be like, fuck off, or just to give a response.
For some reason, always at the time when he really wants to be like in the zone, I'm like, meh, meh, meh. Rather than being like, oh, I'm trying to do something, can you not? And he will go, sweetheart, I'm just in the middle of doing something at the moment. Can you maybe come and ask me these questions in 15 minutes? And you get the same result, but you don't start a fight over it.
And don't get me wrong, it does take some practicing. You just got to literally take a breath and just be like, and then just say it, and just think what you're going to say.
And that's not just with your words. That also goes for tone of voice, because it doesn't matter what words you use, it's how you say things. Because like, there's plenty of times where you say something to me and I'm like, what do you mean by that? And you're like, well, I mean what I say. And I'm like, no. I can hear under those words. So tone of voice is everything. It's how you say it to someone.
Another big one is just taking responsibility and apologising when you're in the wrong. If we know we're in the wrong, we'll just, both of us will apologise straight away and just own our shit. And then you can just move on and get on with your life, rather than like holding grudges or having this like underlying like tension, which can be resolved in the simple, I'm sorry, I fucked up, I was in a shit mood. Or
you don't have to forgive each other straight away. Say, Ollie's upset me. Ollie says, I'm sorry. And when you apologise, you have to be sincere about it, by the way. If I'm like in a place to forgive, then I will say, and it's not, oh, that's okay, it's fine, it's I forgive you. If you are not ready to forgive that person, that is also okay. So there's been plenty of times, both ways, that one of us has upset the other one. We've gone, oh, yeah, I was being a dick. I'm sorry. And if the other person isn't ready to forgive, we'll just say, I'm not ready to forgive you right now. Can I have some space? And we just leave it there, and we have that space. And when you are ready to forgive, then you'll come up, and usually we'll like put a hand on each other or make eye contact or something like that. And then we'll go, I forgive you. And once we've done that, we drop it. So if you still feel a little bit angry about something, don't say you forgive the person yet if you're going to bring it up or you're going to jab them with it.
And with that, there's no holding grudges either. So it's just like, that's done. It's almost like just deleted and erased from your memory, and then you can't bring it up in the future about for any reason.
Exercising will have a huge impact on your mental state and your stress levels in terms of releasing happy hormones, mood boosting, and feeling good about yourself. It helps you channel your energy. So if you're feeling angry, irritated, anxious, low, it helps you release all of that.
We find when we exercise in the morning, it sets our tone for the day ahead.
To be fair, this is the hardest one, because when you're fed up with each other, you just want space, and this requires the absolute opposite. I think a lot of the time when you're getting annoyed, irritable, angry at each other, you don't touch each other, and that doesn't have to be just sexually, that's any sort of intimacy. And I think people forget that they're lovers, and that can change the dynamic of how you communicate. So something we also try and do is connect intimately, even when we don't want to. For us, this looks like eye staring, hugging, kissing, and little acts of service. This isn't all the time, but it keeps that connection open, and I think that's really important. Especially if we're irritable with each other, we will take 2 minutes, 5 minutes out of that day to connect in some way. The difference
between how we treat each other before and after 2 minutes of eye staring in silence is profound.
It's easy to get distant and to want to just avoid any, I guess, connectivity because you need the space, and you almost like forget that you're in love with that person. So having those like couple of minutes just to do some eye staring, just stare into their soul, then you realise that all just goes away and you're like, oh yeah, I remember now.
It doesn't stop the need for space, but it keeps that lover connection open. And Oli came up with a nice idea.
Yeah, so essentially just doing one act of service a week with no expectations of anything being reciprocated. It's just giving for the sake of giving. So that can be in the form of a massage, something sexual, or even cooking them a nice meal.
And you can always discuss that beforehand, like we've done, like what would you like to receive? Have the discussion with your partner. Give your partner like a list of things that you would just love. And it doesn't have to be an hour-long massage. Like we've done 10-minute foot massages or 5-minute head massage, or I think I've asked for like just arm tickles before. It's these little points of connection that just keep that intimacy alive. And afterwards we still have that space, but we can be kind to each other again. And that's how we haven't killed each other yet.